So funny. It's wonderful to be here with 80 powerful women who we have now gotten in touch with our wisdom, so we're even more powerful. Nature is very important to us. We look to it for solace and for peace, and it's something that deserves to be preserved. I grew up in America in the 60s and 70s, and that was a time when people went out on the streets and protested against the things that they didn't agree with that were going on, and the government listened. We stopped the Vietnam War, for example. And at the time, we had a television program in America called The Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau. And I loved that program. It was very similar to what we have today with Blue Planet and David Attenborough. I just loved being with them, swimming in the ocean with the fish and the turtles, and seeing the cooperation and the competition that went on in this other world, this magical blue sea. That was the influence that made me want to defend the silent voice of Mother Nature. I work in the energy industry. The energy industry is responsible for 30% of climate change. We have a crisis. We have an energy crisis. The energy industry is broken, according to John Major and other prominent people. And that's because we continue to subsidize the extraction of fossil fuels, being oil and gas, despite the fact that it's destroying us. It's a primary contributor to climate change. What we really need to do is switch to cleaner fuels, to 100% renewable energy fuels, and change this energy mix that's happening right now. I'll tell you a little secret, actually. Fossil fuels are subsidized 8 times the amount that renewable energy is subsidized in this country. And these subsidies are in the form of export guarantees and tax credits, things that we don't see, that they're not transparent to us, like the eco-tax on our energy bill. But that's going to change because in March of next year, the government is removing all subsidy for small generation renewables. In the time since that subsidy was put in place, which was in 2010, in those 8 years, we have gone from renewables being 2% of our energy supply to 32% of our energy supply today. And that's just matching the subsidy for renewables to not even close to the way that we subsidize fossil fuels. The way that we can do that is by switching to 100% renewable energy in our energy supply. If all of us switched, then we would create a demand push for the industry that would require them to produce 100% renewable energy to meet the demand. The other thing is that nuclear power is a dirty fuel as well. Some people try to say that it's clean, but in fact, nuclear power is expensive and it's a dirty fuel. It's expensive because in order to build the Hinkley C plant, we're going to have to pay 50% more on our wholesale electricity price than what we pay today. And that is for 35 years. Now, the government is, I guess, betting that in 7 years' time, those prices will increase to that amount. And that's why they've entered into this commitment on behalf of the taxpayer. We don't know how to manage the waste that comes from nuclear power stations. We can only manage it for 200 years. And the radioactive materials can last for 10,000 years. And there's no city, town, or village in the country that wants to host a nuclear waste storage site. I mean, what would you rather have in your backyard? A nuclear waste storage site or a wind farm? So despite, no, it's kind of ridiculous, actually. So here we are subsidizing fracking that people don't know about. And the thing is that because fossil fuels are a limited resource, we're having to go through more extreme methods of extracting it, which makes it more expensive. What we need to do is provide affordable heat for people, because in our country, 30,000 people die every year because they can't afford to heat their homes, or they have anxiety around heating their homes. All that really needs to change, because we could use more renewable resources like wood fuels. We don't manage 60% of our forestry in this country. If we did manage it, we could use wood fuels to create heat. My energy cooperative is doing a project right outside of Brighton where we're switching the people in a village from oil heating to wood fuel heating through a centralized heat network. Now that will provide more affordable heating. It will take the people off fossil fuels in that village, and they can grow their own fuel from managing their own forestry around that village. Now that seems to make a lot of sense to me, and that is something that we should be pursuing as a country, as an alternative to fossil fuels. So my message to you is to take back your power as a consumer, because as a consumer, you can make a difference by making sure that this money that you're spending is being spent on clean energy and not dirty energy. Last month, the International Panel for Climate Change announced that we have 12 years left to stop catastrophic climate change, which is a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in temperature. We already have a 1% increase in temperature. And look what this is causing. All the fires in California, the droughts, flash flooding in Athens, and the burned peas in my garden this summer. All from these issues around climate change. We can do something about it, because the thing is, we might feel overwhelmed by this issue. It's quite a big issue, and we might feel helpless to do anything about it. But we do have power as consumers to do something about it. You can support local energy. In this country, Oxford University, the Environmental Climate Change Unit, did a study where they demonstrated that the wind is blowing around the island 99% of the time, and that we can generate our electricity needs from wind energy. And with battery storage coming on stream now, we can use the battery storage with the intermittent wind energy and solar power to increase the energy provision in this country and make sure we have affordable energy that is generated by nature. So what would you rather have, clean energy or dirty energy? The other thing is, how many of you have been to Cumbria before? We all love Cumbria. It's a place of outstanding natural beauty in our country. And yet, we have the largest stockpile of plutonium in the world based in Cumbria. I don't know if you know that, but because of austerity, we might not be managing that as well as we can. And we've already know that there's hazardous levels of tritium in the Irish Sea. Tritium is a very dangerous radioactive material. So we don't want to build new nuclear power stations. We don't need them. We don't need the gas anymore from fracking. As the price of fossil fuels increases, that means, of course, the government gets more money in tax, so they might promote that as a solution. And they're also overruling local councils, making it so easy to get planning permission. It's as easy to get planning permission to drill under your homes or in a national park for shale gas as it is to set up a garden shed. I mean, this is what we're creating right here, and none of this is necessary. The future is all around larger scale renewable energy. to power our growing industrial complex. And then we also balance that with local energy needs from local energy co-ops, like my co-op in Brighton, because local energy can provide affordable energy, we can solve problems around fuel poverty, we can fix the problems and at least provide an example for the rest of the world about the change that we can make in combating climate change. So, exercise your power, switch to 100% renewable energy, and support local community energy groups. Thank you.